Okay, everyone, welcome to our June 23rd, 2020 CEO briefing. It is 10:05. Please let the record reflect that Commissioner Kearns and CUNY are on Zoom. Commissioner French is out of the office today. It looks like I've just been supplied with our most updated briefing sheet, and we have some time slated here for CARES Act funding discussion. And looks like we're going to lead off with Becky Garrett and Pat Farrell, who are going to give us a IT technology request. So take it away, Pat or Becky.
Okay. Are you there, Becky? Okay, Becky's not there. Oh, she looks like she's there, but maybe on mute. I don't know. So anyway, I'll kick it off. So we are proposing that some of the CARES Act money be used to make an investment in teleworking to allow our employees to work from home more efficiently. We put together some numbers here. There's the sheet. Based on a point in time, kind of an average, high, low watermark, we're averaging about, let me pull up my spreadsheet here. The midpoint is like 380 average teleworkers per day. We came up with a cost for a laptop and docking station of $1,800-ish, and that makes the total funding request of about $686,000. We identified some purchases that recently occurred. Community Services purchased a number of 29 laptops right about the time that the COVID event transpired. I think Carrie confirmed that they did not code those to COVID. Is that right, Carrie?
Correct.
Okay. And then we have 7 other laptops that were purchased by prosecutor and pretrial services, public defender and pretrial services. So if we take those 36 laptops off of our 380 midpoint, takes us down to like 344, which could reduce our request to $621,000. But again, this is just a point in time, and we don't know exactly, how many people additionally over and above that could take advantage of teleworking.
So, commissioners, one of the things that Pat and I talked about this morning, because it's a point in time, some of the requests that have come through my office, and they also reviewed the ones that came in through the Law and Justice Ask yesterday. We don't know if that point in time includes those departments, and some of them that have come through my office recently that really precipitated this conversation today. Some of those people I know personally have not been working from home, so we don't know. We're kind of thinking that this is the starting point, and we'd like to make the ask at this point for this, if we're going to go forward with telecommuting to continue this on. The issue that we really don't know is if this is going to cover all the people that need them, or that department heads are going to have the decision about who should get these laptops and who doesn't have laptops to continue to work from home. Because one of the issues I know is I identified people that had been making the request to my office that I was sending to you guys, haven't been working from home, and they're asking for laptops. So we're hoping that number is pretty close. They based it, I believe, and Pat can jump in, on a point in time on any given day, the number of people that were telecommuting on the county system.
Yeah, so that's correct.
That's kind of where we wanted to start with, but give you kind of an idea if we were encouraging telecommuting, and most people haven't bought computers. As I indicated yesterday, the only 7 I found have been charged under the COVID. The 29 that we knew that Community Services, and I think Commissioner Kearns, this is what you were asking me, that was the figure, that there was a group of laptops that were purchased, and you were correct. It just didn't show up in my records. And it was done before the COVID e-sub, I think, was ever even created, and that's why it didn't jump over.
So how many were purchased then with
20,
that?
29 from Community Services.
That's it. Okay, yeah, because
Yes.
I know we had discussions
Yeah.
where we were under the impression that there had been a much larger number of laptops that were purchased kind of right before we went into this, encouraging folks to telecommute. So that is incorrect, that we did not make a huge purchase. Okay.
Pat can confirm that is right.
I think,
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
but let me just, but Carrie, that there could be other departments that had purchased laptops so people could work from home that we don't know yet. I think until Jerry gets his email out to everybody asking.
Well, and Pat, you can talk about that because, you know, Commissioner Pat and I talked about that. They're trying to, and Pat, were you able to like go back and cull through your records to see?
Yeah, well, all the only ones we saw were 5 purchased by the public defender and 2 for pretrial services using our IT technology plan budget, general fund budget. So there's set quantity 7 there, and then the 29 from community services for a total of 36.
And I wonder if any other departments have, well, I guess you would know because you would be setting up any laptops or any of that for any departments. So you would.
If they were purchasing even on their own, Commissioner, even if they were going out and not going through IT, they probably would be coding them to the E subcode of COVID, because we're seeing all kinds of costs through there, trust me. I mean, it's pretty extensive. The one thing that, you know, also this just gives you a point in time. We don't know who's been issued a laptop from a department from, you know, maybe even a year ago that was purchased way before this that is using it. But we wanted to give the commissioners kind of an idea what point in time we could start at.
Okay. Because yeah, like our laptops, I mean, we're obviously using them, but that was all purchased pre. So I'm just trying to make sure we can really articulate how much COVID, you know, CARES dollars, you know, are going to these and all of that. I know, you know, with requests, you know, and the fact that we're going to be off for a couple of weeks, I mean, I'd rather try to get the ability to start to let you guys purchase these, because I know even laptops being harder to purchase as more people are, you know, working remotely. I know my daughter over in Seattle just got, you know, she got word a week ago that they're actually going to be permanently working from home now. So for the foreseeable future, they're going to, you know, rent out one of the floors of their building for Jacobs Engineering, and, you know, just have shared cubicle spaces and shared conference rooms. And if you need to have a meeting, you come in to have your meeting. But otherwise, they have no intent of bringing people back into the office full time, which is just, you know, interesting.
Well,
And what we're seeing too, if I might add this, is that with the increase in teleworkers, you know, worldwide, we're seeing that attackers are targeting organizations, networks through these teleworkers, and they're using it as a way to create ransomware attack opportunities. And they typically will gain access to corporate or organizations network through compromised passwords they've purchased off the dark web, perhaps. We are currently tracking an event that recently occurred at the Post Falls Police Department where they were hit with a real nasty ransomware attack. They actually involved the FBI and the Secret Service, and we were told that they paid the ransom request, which was $800,000 to the bad guys to try and restore their network back to an operational state. So what we want to do is also for our teleworkers is add a multi-factor authentication capability for those folks and make that part of our security strategy. You know, requiring workers to use 2 sets of credentials when accessing the county network, something you know, which is your password, and then, you know, your phone or a smart app. We've all used 2-factor authentication for our banking and connecting to Gmail and whatnot. So most people are familiar with that, but there's an additional request I asked Gina to put that in the funding request for about $27,000, which would enable us to purchase multi-factor authentication licensing to accommodate all of our teleworkers.
Hey Pat.
Yeah.
When I worked for the state legislature, we were in order to log on to the state system, we were each given a little keychain that had a little tiny LCD screen on it, and I think it had, I want to say, a 6 or 8 digit code that changed every 60 seconds or something like that, and that was a part of our authentication to log in.
Yep.
We'd use our username, our password, and then it would ask us for what that 6 or 8 digit code is. right at that point that was on that keychain. Is that expensive technology? Is that something that we would consider using, or
So
is that
that's
so
an
expensive we don't even want to look at something
it's
like
an
that?
option with the software we're purchasing. We could use that technology. Um, Most people just use their cell phone and they get a
Okay.
PIN. They either use an authenticator application on the cell phone, and if they don't want to install the authenticator app, they can just get a 6-digit code texted to them. But
Okay.
that would be an option, Commissioner Kearns. But the devices are, I don't know, 20 to 50 bucks a piece.
Oh, wow.
So if we had, say, some folks that didn't want to use their cell phone as the personal factor in that authentication piece, we could provide them, if the department wanted to purchase those key fobs, that would be an option.
Okay. And then can I just to confirm, when you put docking station, how are we defining docking station, and what all is
So the docking station
included
is
in
a
that?
box that would sit on your desk in your office, and when you brought your laptop, which travels with you to your office, you would just connect it to this docking station. Connected to the docking station would be your 2 monitors, your larger keyboard, and your mouse. So you're using your laptop as the compute resource, but you're able to use your bigger keyboard, your mouse, and your 2 monitors at work in the office. Then when you go home, you just disconnect your laptop from the docking station, one cable, pop it out, off you go, and you travel, and you have your computer with you.
Okay. Is that, are those components needed, or if we just purchase, I mean, like, because I think Mary, do you have the Surface? Is that what you have, or do you have a laptop?
I have a Dell.
Oh, okay. So I think Commissioner French and I know Jerry have the Surface, which has the keyboard built right into it. It's got a little mouse that flips open, and when you don't need it, you bend it and it becomes flat. And you just toss it. I mean, it's very easy to travel with. If we just bought a bunch of Surfaces with those with the Bluetooth mouse and all that, I mean, would that be cheaper? Or do you think, do we really need the 2 screens and everything that comes along with a docking station, the full size?
I think it's a
keyboards? I mean, is that needed?
I think that's a depends question. It just depends on what the teleworker, how the teleworker works. Are they coming into the office to work part of the time and working from home part of the time? Then I would say the docking station would be recommended. If they're working from home all the time, just on the laptop, then perhaps not. I think that would be an optional component and would depend upon the teleworker's needs.
Okay.
Commissioner Kearns, can I talk about 2 screens?
Of course. Go for it.
From I would really echo what Pat says. It depends. After working at home for 2 months in my basement bunker, I had to get another screen. It was virtually impossible for me to keep switching between my 2 for even at home. So it depends on what kind of work people are doing too. If they're doing a lot of budget information and things, it's just near impossible to work from one screen. So again, I think it's up to the department heads to help guide this conversation about what their crew really need.
Okay. All right.
And I would say I agree with Pat in that so Max has a docking station. I don't, so I had to buy a cable so I could actually use our monitor here at home to then put my laptop in. I totally, the first 2 weeks at home, screwed up my whole right arm with trying to use the keyboard and all of that here versus having a normal ergonomic keyboard. And not in a, not an ergonomic setting. And so I think it is, I mean, I'd rather, if I had a docking station at work, I would use that, versus the other computer so that I could take this back and forth. Say, Pat, I probably, and having the docking stations, I think, then if people are going back and forth, then they're hooking up to the system and they're getting all the updates that they need to get, because I can tell you, Pat, I probably need to bring mine in because my virus software is outdated on my computer, and I think I'm like 2 passwords behind.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another component to this, is that if you have one computer, it's just one less computer to manage, and that computer is essentially connected to the county network no matter where it goes, using it's called an always-on VPN technology. So we in IT can manage it and make sure that it is updated properly and kept up to date.
Yeah, because I mean, you saying that, I probably need to sometime this week bring it in so we can
Yeah, that'd be a great idea.
update it and all that.
I'll be coming in behind Commissioner CUNY with the same request. Which leads to another question. How did Carrie get out of her dungeon and Mary and I are still stuck in our dungeon?
Don't know. You have to have the password. You have to like bake, send cookies to people and have them dig you out. Finally, I just broke free one day, Commissioner. I just said, I have to get out of the basement bunker.
All right.
And so, Pat, a question for you, because the docking stations, they're like, are they like $400 or $500? I don't know.
No, that they're $220 for the system that we proposed here.
Okay. And then are you looking to put everybody on the same type of laptop? Because like we were saying, they're on Surfaces, I'm on a Dell.
Yeah, we're looking at the budget amount was based upon a specific Lenovo laptop that we've had good luck with.
Okay. Good.
So the other question I have, Commissioners, and I have Kathleen in the room as well, about the laptops. One of the questions I had about the laptop she purchases, the date she purchased those, if we could roll those into this amount or not.
Was it before March 1st?
Do you know when you purchased those, Kathleen? Because Pat couldn't tell.
I don't know for sure, but I can find out. I know that we were looking at them in February, but I don't think we actually got them until March, so they're probably March.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Then if we purchase them after March 1st, because the CARES dollars are from March 1st, December
Correct.
30th, we should be able to use that.
But I wanted to roll, Commissioner, I wanted to roll that amount in the total ask that we're looking at, because some of this has been reduced on the 620,000 was based on the 7 we had previously purchased, but we would want to roll those in because if the 7 we previously purchased were also within this time frame. So I want to make sure, because the original part that we had come up with was about 686,037, and we may want to start with that figure plus the 30,000 that Pat was talking about, and then have that as a high point. If we were to go over that, then that would require that we come back in and update the board.
Okay, so just a second, I'm trying to figure out what that total is going to be.
Because that would cover Kathleen's as well, if she's within that time frame.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain we are. Laura would know.
Plus the 7 that we calculated, that I had found and that Pat confirmed for me as well.
So the 686 and 26 is 716, or no, 30, sorry. 686 and 30 is
Right.
16. So if we set a max not to exceed 725, would that include?
How much, Commissioner?
725.
725.
25,000?
Yeah, 725. If you set a max on that, that would probably get us started, correct, Pat?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Josh, what are your thoughts?
I think it's important that we get them started on this. I mean, this is clearly an approved CARES. This is something that CARES money can be used for. I think it's important with as many people that are telecommuting here. I will reiterate again. I know I have said this multiple times, and you guys are probably getting tired of hearing it. I don't want to see these end up sitting on a shelf. Once we are past COVID, once it is a bad, distant memory, I really want to see us emphasize the continuing of telecommuting. And I think this will help with that. Just because people can come back and work from the office doesn't mean people should or have to come back and work from the office. I think I would like to see us continue the telecommuting. That's going to put a lot less strain on other aspects of the courthouse and working for the county. And so, yeah, no, I'm in support of this, and I want us to help push this or guide us into what honestly has become common with a lot of private industry, and that's telecommuting. If you can do your job not at the office, then that's fine. As long as you get it done, do it wherever you want.
And I would say too, I think with the docking stations, that allows people, if they are in the office and then they're going to a meeting, or, like we saw this morning where we all have our laptops, at meetings, then everything stays synced up and all of that. And, then they can, if they need to be in the office for a day, they can be in the office for a day, and they can be home, the next day working from home. So
Yep.
I'm in full support, and I think this meets the CARES requirement. And as we know, COVID is not going away anytime soon. This is going to be with us in our community for a while, and so we need to be prepared. And so this is part of that, what I see as essential government purchase, to keep our government functioning. So I'd be in favor. So I'll make a motion that we approve $725,000 of CARES funding to be used for technology needs for telecommuting for our employees that can do that.
Yep. And that was an up to 725.
Yep.
All right. I will. What was that?
Up to 725,000.
Okay. All right. I will second the motion. Any discussion?
Hey, Commissioner Kearns, this is
Yeah.
John. I heard that was for telecommuting equipment, Commissioner CUNY. I didn't know if that meant laptops, and because Pat, one other question, are you getting other requests for different types of equipment like scanners? I'm hearing from our utility billing group. So I didn't know if your motion is just for laptops or if it's for additional equipment also.
Just the figure that we presented today, John, is only for laptops and docking stations.
I just didn't hear that in Commissioner CUNY's.
Yeah. Mary, do you want to make your motion more specific?
Well, although can it include those things? I mean, that's part of, because does the scanners go through you, Pat, or not?
Typically they do. I haven't seen any requests come through IT for, I have a large order of webcams coming in. I saw some in the departmental request document, but those haven't come directly to us for cameras and scanners.
So I guess I would like to just include that as part of this, as all part of telecommuting equipment. And if we exceed the 725,000, then you just come back to us and we can look at what additional we need to do. But I think, I guess I want to be cognizant of, we still have limited dollars. I want people to understand that they need to go through IT for these things, so that way we can really track it, and IT is helpful in, in doing that. And so I think with the CARES dollars, I want to make sure that IT is kind of our go-to, instead of having people just go out and purchase things, because I think you can get a better pricing through IT.
Absolutely.
Pat, than if people are just going out and starting to purchase scanners, and if they need a specific scanner versus just a generic scanner, you should be able to help them with that.
Yes.
So I guess I just want to be cognizant that we need to still be thoughtful and purposeful with these CARES dollars. And again, if this is an estimate, and maybe everybody doesn't need a laptop that we're thinking. So, I don't know. Josh, what are your thoughts?
I was thinking of just making the motion to purchase what was presented here by staff. If folks need additional, additional equipment, I think they should probably come back for it at this point. Because at this point we're taking a guess on what other people are going to want. We got a lot of the scanner requests from the criminal justice yesterday, but I assume that's going to be part of another motion to take all of that as a whole at a later date. I don't know if we really want to muddy the waters and tack on a bunch of stuff that people might need and might not want. I want to make sure we at least fulfill this minimum request of the, was it 340 or 344 laptops and the docking stations. I at least want that to be taken care of. I don't want any of these funds to go towards something else that would short that ask.
Commissioners, what we could do is I could work with Pat and take a look at what the requests have been on scanners and bring that in before you guys as well. so that you would know what the amount is for that. Because I guess my concern is we start adding scanners. Let's say we have 150 scanners that are out there and you guys didn't know that. How are we going to distinguish? Should we not buy laptops and buy the scanners and all of that? So I would just really, I echo, maybe keeping this more clean for today and then coming back in with how many requests for the scanners and what the cost of that would be.
Yeah, I agree, Carrie.
And quite frankly, if you can get that by this afternoon, I mean, we're meeting this afternoon. It's light. If you want to come in and make a pitch on scanners this afternoon, we'll let you come back in.
I think that would be beneficial because I think we don't meet again until after the 4th of July. And so that's 2 weeks of, trying to get people set up and not having all the equipment they need to really work from to telecommute or be able to start to do electronic processing, which is reducing that face-to-face contact.
So Pat, do you have an idea what's come through? I can take a look at what Law and Justice Council presented yesterday about the numbers from them. I don't know, John, if you've heard more, but I haven't had that many requests come in. The only requests I've had have been for the laptop, so I haven't seen anything other than what was presented yesterday.
Yeah, the only ones I saw, Carrie, were in the CARES Act request document that kind of summarizes the departmental requests.
That was presented yesterday.
Okay.
So that would be, at least we could come in with that. Have you heard anything more, John?
No, we just got to do a cross check to make sure that we're not duplicating some of these laptop requests from Law and Justice and from this request right here.
Yeah, we're not gonna, what we did is we did it as a point in time. That's why we did the up to and then come back into the commissioners with additional. We really need to work with the department heads because they're the ones that have got to really decide when we start ordering this to address the issue. Is it somebody that's working 1 day a week on a laptop? How often and what do they need it for? So, echoing that we're not buying equipment that's just going to sit around on the shelf someplace. So I think we can probably, Pat, I think we could probably come back this afternoon. It's going to be a fairly short list that you could see. If you could come up with the price for us on the scanners.
Yep, I can do that.
Okay, great.
No motion.
So Commissioner, back to your motion, what I heard was telecommuting equipment. I don't know if we want to be any more specific or if that's good enough for this motion.
We can say as presented by staff. So
Great.
There you go. So
Can we add telecommuting equipment and software because it does include some licensing for the multi-factor authentication?
Okay, telecommunication and software.
okay, so I'm going to restate what I heard. It's to authorize the spending of up to $725,000 of CARES funds for the purchase of laptops, docking stations, and software as presented by staff. Was that correct?
Perfect.
All right, and I will second that motion. Any further discussion? All right, everybody be like Tony and find the best price you can on this stuff. So
Absolutely.
all right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes unanimously, 2-0. Okay. Thank you
Pat.
all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I will check
Commissioner French is
our
out, so.
agenda. Next up, we have Kathleen Torella with a department update. And I did forget, can we go around the room and introduce everybody just to set the record? I know I had mentioned Commissioner Cuny and I are both on Zoom. I see we have Karen Corkins joining us on Zoom. We have Jim Brown on Zoom as well. Can we go around the room and state who's with us today?
Tim Crowley, Housing and Community Development.
Oh, we have Tim on the phone. Thank you, Tim.
Yes, thank you.
Jim Kaufman, Deputy Prosecutor.
John Dixon, Chief Operations Officer.
Gary Petrovich, Budget Office.
Tim Ziegler, City of Spokane.
Kathleen Torella, Director of Community Services, Housing, Community Development.
Ron Valencia.
Tina Vasquez.
Carrie Grittal.
All right, and do we have anybody else on the phone with us other than Tim Crowley?
We do have 3 other callers who have not yet identified themselves.
All right, could you three please identify yourselves for the record?
Rebecca White, spokesman review. Mary Lou Johnson, citizen.
Paul Warfield, City of Spokane.
Thank you all for joining us today. Okay, Kathleen, I'm going to hand it over to you. Take it away.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Kearns. We wanted to present to you an update on ESGCB. It's COVID-19 funding for the Emergency Solutions Grant. We spoke about it a couple of weeks ago briefly, and I promised at that time that I'd give you a more complete update on it. We were actually granted and announced this funding was available on June 10th, 2020 by the Department of Commerce. And the amount given to jointly with City of Spokane and Spokane County is $272,217. And we've evaluated this and met with the City of Spokane Community Housing and Human Services staff on this. And we would like to request approval by the commissioners for the Spokane County Housing Community Development Division to not apply for this grant. The application is due July 1st, and the funding will be available July 15th. By doing so, if the commissioners approve it, the City of Spokane will be submitting an application for this ESGCB funding to receive the funding on behalf of both of the Spokane region, which would include providing services to all City of Spokane beneficiaries as well as all Spokane County beneficiaries. I provided you with attachments that give you a lot more detail about the ESGCB funding. This is not funding typically that Spokane County receives. It's funding that City of Spokane receives. And so what the federal government did is they provided a supplemental appropriation of homeless assistance grants under the Emergency Solution Grant. And so this funding is available to be used to prevent, prepare for, and respond to coronavirus pandemic among individuals and families who are homeless or receiving homeless services and assistance. The funds will also support additional homeless assistance and homeless prevention activities to mitigate the impacts of the coronavirus. This funding can be used for street outreach, emergency shelters, prevention, and rapid rehousing. And again, there's an attachment C has a lot more detail on that. So in summary, what we'd like to do before I turn over to your questions is again approve, and the reasoning for it is to approve our division to not apply for these funds. And that's because we do not have experience administering and standing up an ESG program with funds, because again, they're not typically awarded to Spokane County, nor does the Housing Community Development Division have the staff capacity to apply and administer these ESG-CB funds. The administrative allowance in these funds is only 7%. And so that's about $19,055 on the total sum of $272,217. And this would be just insufficient alone by itself as far as funding to, again, start up a new program by our Housing Community Development team. On the other hand, the City of Spokane is an ESG entitlement grantee. They have years of experience administering ESG funds. They do have the capacity to apply and administer these funds. And they have an open ESGCB RFP right now that could be readily used for these additional ESGCB funds. And that's because they received, when we received our CDBG CB funds, they received some of those funds, but they also received an initial round of ESGCB funds then. So that's why they already have an RFP going that these funds could be put to. So again, if the commissioners were to approve this, the City of Spokane would apply for these funds, and they would administer the contracts with the service providers to provide services to the entire Spokane region. Again, City of Spokane beneficiaries as well as Spokane County's beneficiaries from the 12 cities and towns and unincorporated areas. So I turn it over to you if you have any questions for Tim Sigler or myself.
Commissioner CUNY?
So with those funds that were received earlier, it was almost $1 million that the city of Spokane got for CARES funding for the ESG. So what has the city done with those funds so far, I guess? And then, because it was interesting since, we both got the CDBG funding. You got almost 2 million. I think we got almost 1 million. And then you guys got the additional ESG. I think the screen is off now. So, trying to figure out, as we look at homelessness as a regional issue, there's been kind of this, started to become a divisiveness between what City of Spokane versus what's the community. And so I just want to, ask what those funds had already been spent on, and then how these would be used and to accentuate that.
Sure. So again, Tim Sigler with City of Spokane. The majority of the funds at this point are going out towards the healthy sheltering and social distancing. So many of the warming centers were closing, but at that time, the governor had said that we need to practice the social distancing and keeping those shelters open. So again, the majority of that is going towards the transition from warming centers to now we're just focusing on the social distancing, healthy shelter models. As well as we have expanded some of our outreach programs at a minimal level. And then we're also looking into the rental assistance program. We're doing that with home funds, but this is also an eligible activity. So we did receive, or are receiving, the second allotment, and that's 3.3 million. That'll also be focusing on the 4 different areas that qualify. But we know that there's going to be a need for the healthy sheltering for at least the next several months. So that would be where the majority of those funds would go towards.
Okay, so we also got Department of Commerce, the 1.4 million initially for social distancing for homeless shelters. What is, I guess that's where I keep getting confused, because it's like, I'm just trying to figure out where we spent these dollars, because that was, funds that, came to the county initially, and we had it go directly to the city and ask for coordination, but I've never heard anything as to how those funds were being spent. So, I because that was supposed to be for homeless sheltering as well. So can you speak to where those funds are and what happened with those?
Sure, and before I do, I want to start by saying, and I'm sure you're all aware that sheltering is very expensive. And so it seems like you might be able to do something for cheap if it's just a bed in a building, but it's much more expensive than that, because you need security, you need additional staffing, and then you've got the other supplies like food and different sanitization devices that need to be there. Specifically, if we're going into the funds, so Catholic Charities for family shelter, they've expanded from their Rising Strong building to now they've got an additional 40 spaces available at another building for families. We knew that was going to be a need in the beginning of this pandemic, so they were able to do that. We also have been working with Hope House, so they went from, when they had to social distance from their current building, they went from being able to serve 14 to now I think it's 57 that they can serve. So those are additional bodies, additional staffing that have to that we've been meeting the needs for, as well as the arena. So that's 102 people that are staying there.
And 8th Avenue.
And 8th Avenue, that was the last one. So, well, that is the Hope House one, but that's still an additional almost 50 beds.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's the rental of the facilities, it's the expanded services, it's the increased security. There's many things that play into it. The tenant improvements that had to be done on some of the different buildings. But to speak to that even further, we've been working with the county, with Kathleen and her team, on creating a spreadsheet that's going to separate each and every one of the funds that are coming in that are used for specifically COVID response, also for what our normal shelter operations are. And then if we've had additional funding that we would normally use for normal operations, that we've had to use instead for COVID response. So that's getting put together right now, and it'll be a lot easier to see visually.
And we're planning to share that probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. because we are aware that there's another around $2.7 million coming into our region for homeless sheltering purposes. And we are working together as a region, also with the continuum of care, on what that application would contain and how it would look. And so we're in the process of working on that. It has a July 17th deadline. And I was hoping to maybe be able to squeeze them both into this presentation, but we're not ready yet. And so when we do that presentation to the board about that funding and that plan, we'll have the spreadsheet available, and Tim will be there also to answer questions like that. But I'm hoping it to give you a big picture of all the funding coming both from Spokane County, representing Spokane Valley and the county and our 12 cities and towns and unincorporated areas, as well as the city of Spokane, both COVID and non-COVID that's coming into the shelters.
Right, because as we look at the, the bridge housing, project as well, I mean, I just want to make sure it's I think, a little difficult sometimes as a commissioner because we're hearing all these different things, but I'm not seeing the whole picture. And so it'd be very helpful for us to see that, what's happening, what's going on, so that way we're clear and can clearly answer to our constituents as to what's happening and what's the funds that are coming into the region that are helping with all of that.
Yeah, that's a real challenge, and that's why we'll include what we do have to date on the bridge funding as well too, that's there, so that you have one document that shows everything that we know to date. And obviously it will be a living document as we go forward, but I think it'll help with that concept there.
Okay, because as we know too, the 8th Avenue and the arena are both temporary, and so it's like and those have to be, I think, out. I'm not sure what the date is, but we know they're temporary, and so I'm trying to figure out. I would like to be knowing what we're doing and planning ahead versus what ended up with the library, where it was a last minute. We've got to get out of here. We have to make these decisions. We know now that we have to be out of those areas, and so I want to make sure we're being thoughtful as to what that's going to look like, because I know that transitional bridge housing that we're looking at, kind of with the Valley, probably is not going to be, I think initially thinking that would help, with that, when we have to close those other, shelters, temporary shelters. But I don't think that's going to be the answer. And so, because we're not going to be able to get that up and running in time. So I'm curious, Tim, since you're here, what the plan is for the arena and the 8th Avenue building.
Sure. So the date is August 13th. That's when the contracts are up and got to be out of there. Right now, we're working on tenant improvements at the Cannon site. So we're putting in showers and bathrooms, storage, all the things that we've already needed. We anticipate that Cannon site in the future, once we get past COVID, will be used as the day center where there's service providers there, case managers there. People can go and take showers and keep healthy and safe during the daytime, because as we know right now there isn't a space for people to go during the day. But in the short term, that space will be available to fill in some of the spaces at the arena, and then as well, or on top of that, we're working right now with a realtor on a potential lease with purchase option for a building that's out of the downtown area. I'm going to hold off on sharing what the building is right now, just because we haven't talked to the owners of the building. We want to make sure that they have the opportunity to weigh in, but we're working on that with our legal department right now. If we're able to acquire that building from the lease side of it, and then in the future to purchase, that will help backfill for the rest of the arena. The one area that we're still trying to figure out is with the Hope House and the county building, a location for that to go. If it's not an option moving forward. So that's the plan that we're working on right now.
Okay, and with the Cannon Street, see, this is kind of, I guess, the confusion that I have is that, last year when Cannon Street was opened up, we were told that was city only, that, it was general funds from the city, that we couldn't, that was not a regional facility or any of that. But yet it's the people from Cannon that have ended up at the arena and ended up at the 8th Avenue that they're looking to go into this bridge transitional housing And so I just want to make sure that we're looking at this regionally and not city-centric. And again, partly because I think when Cannon Street was opened, it was we were told this is only for City of Spokane residents, it's not for anybody else. And so how do we make that transition from that city-centric to regional situation?
Yeah, and I'm not sure who it was that said that this is only for city guests, but we don't reject anybody. If you show up at the front door at a shelter, especially a night-by-night shelter, even though they may ask what your zip code is or where you last had permanent housing, nobody gets rejected because they're from anywhere else, and that's never been a practice, at least since I've been in this position with the city. So I'm not sure why it was said that way, but that's not actually what we do as a normal practice within the shelter system.
Yeah, we specifically asked that question under the old administration to Kelly Keenan, and he was the one that stated that. So I think it was Commissioner Kearns who had the question that we asked that very explicitly. And they said, if they show up, we won't turn them away, but that's not really who it's intended for. And then when Tim moved into his position and Tisha, and we were working with Tim and Tisha, we asked that question again and said, we've heard we can't, have anybody from outside the city of Spokane in the Cannon facility. And they said, no, that's not true at all. So I think it may have been as the administration potentially changed or Tim moved into this position that it has become clear that Tisha and Tim we ask regularly and they keep saying, no, this is all regional, this is regional. And I know that you're exactly right. And I'm hoping this spreadsheet will also be kind of an educational document to inform the media as well as a lot of some of the elected officials and their support staff to make it really clear this is regional. We're all putting money in and everyone's being served. So I think Tim and I really worked hard to try and make sure that at every turn we're now making this a regional effort in communicating it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that because, like I said, something in the past, and I just want to make sure it says that I'm helping guide these things as we move forward. That it is regional, and that we're kind of all have we're all trying to be a voice at the table to help lift up the homeless and make a difference and make a change. Excited with the consumer care, when they came out with a 5-year plan and that, we look at that, talking to Pam Teets the other day, with the City of Spokane Valley and hearing her talk again, it's, trying to make that difference. And I think that's what we all want to do, but we need to do it collectively. So thank you.
Okay, Kathleen, is this something that we actually have to take action on to not apply, or if we just don't apply, that sends the message?
That is correct. If we don't apply, and we're actually not formally applying, but we're really in support with City of Spokane. So City of Spokane will apply because we don't. And really, I failed to say, but the Department of Commerce said only one of us could apply.
Yeah.
And
but you don't. But you don't need us to take an action directing you to not apply, correct?
No, we just wanted to make sure, especially because it was COVID-19 funds, that you were aware of what our plan was and make sure that you were in support of our not applying.
Okay.
And I appreciate that because I think, again, it makes it clear to everybody that it's, we're choosing not to apply to allow the City of Spokane the opportunity to apply for it, but it's a regional nature that we're collaborating on this issue.
Yeah,
exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathleen, can you have Laura check on the dates for me? She's out.
Okay.
So
next up on our agenda, actually, Gina, that's all I have for this morning. I guess that brings us to miscellaneous matters. Anything else? Commissioner Cuney or around the room? Anything else?
I guess I'm sad that Commissioner French isn't here because we really need to at some point address the CARES request that came in from GSI but I don't want to make a big, CARES determination without,
Yeah.
French. Waiting till after 4th of July is a long time to start look at getting small business loans, just because of the process of it.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
It may be something that, I mean, quite frankly, I'd be willing to do a special meeting just for that purpose. I don't.
Yeah, I would too, because I think waiting till, again, the delays we saw with the PPE, it's we need to get it out there, as we start to get that out next week, which is, exciting to see that's happening. We need to be ready to reorder if we need to. All those things. So I think we just need to think about, if we need to do special meetings to, and Jim, Kaufman, if we do a special meeting to look at, repurchasing additional PPE, what's our procedures to do that under the emergency?
Yeah, we would send out a notice. You'd have to do it at least 24 hours in advance. So, I mean, if you decided Friday you wanted to do it Monday or something, that would be fine.
Okay.
If I understood your question. Does that answer it pretty much, Commissioner?
Yeah, so we just need a 24-hour notice.
Minimum, obviously the longer the better probably, but 24 minimum, 24 hours.
Okay. Because I think some of this is kind of getting time sensitive to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the community with these funds.
Yeah, I completely agree with Commissioner CUNY. She's spot on. And yeah, no, I would absolutely support having a special meeting. Because yeah, waiting 2 weeks for something like this, I think we're getting out there way too long. We need to have a discussion. We need to make a decision on this.
Technically, if nothing has been done, you might already be on technical schedule for your regular meetings on Monday or Tuesday anyway. So you could go back and keep that. You may not need to do anything. I'd have to check that because I don't know what Mr. Driscoll and Ms. Vasquez, well,
we will have to do a notice of special meeting because that next week is the designated time that the board already scheduled not to meet.
Okay,
so
you've already scheduled out. Okay.
So I could just do a notice and then list the day, time, and the reason that we're.
Yes. We can talk about that, Gina. But yeah, I wasn't sure, Commissioner CUNY, whether you had technically canceled your regular meetings for next week. I knew you weren't going to have it, but I didn't know whether that had been done yet. So that shouldn't be a big problem as long as we're at least 24 hours or more in advance of when you want to have it.
Okay. I think we got to, see when Mr. French is feeling better and.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Gina or Karen, I know Karen's. I see Karen's on Zoom. Do you think could you check with Commissioner French and see if he thinks he would be up for a special meeting either Monday or Tuesday to make some. Oh, this Friday.
Yeah.
Oh, or what? Your microphone is not on, Karen. If you could just check with Commissioner French on what he thinks his schedule is on when he would possibly be up for a special meeting to just, I mean, I think it would be very, very quick, probably a half hour just to come in, discuss the proposal and make a decision up or down on the small business aspect of some of these CARES dollars.
I don't know if this mic's not working.
Oh, there we go.
There she
We hear you
goes.
there.
Now it's working?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check. I think Friday might be a little hard to predict. So Monday or Tuesday would be a safer bet.
Okay.
But I will contact him, and even on Thursday, I can contact him to see if Friday would work. That'd be a 24-hour notice.
Yeah, we'd have to add no later than Thursday if we could, preferably.
Yeah.
Good.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else, Commissioner CUNY?
I don't think so. So we've got the health board on Thursday. With the governor. Are you attending?
It all depends on if Commissioner French can or cannot.
Okay.
So Karen, you're gonna have to let his health.
Yeah, let us know whether he's going to be able to make that or not with the governor on Thursday at 2.
The governor on Thursday at 2.
Yes.
I will look at his calendar. I will look at his emails and find that information. And I will keep you posted on how he's feeling and if he can attend.
Okay.
All right, anything around the room? Jared, any updates?
Nothing substantial. There
Okay.
will be, I think there will be plenty after Doug Chase's presentation this afternoon, but I'll wait for him to do his presentation so I don't steal any of his thunder.
Okay.
So Josh, today at the morning meeting, you know, talking about the mass and trying to get together a PSA that's, you know, electeds. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, you know, it's hard to tell what we can do to help encourage, you know, more mask wearing. I mean, it's, you know, clearly we're hearing from the healthcare professionals it's important. You know, I think it goes back to, I mean, I gotta say, I like what Dr. Lutz and what the sheriff have advocated from the beginning. It sets a tone if you know, if elected officials are out there wearing their masks. I mean, when I go out in public, when I go into a store, I mean, I throw my mask on. I think that's one of the strongest messages that we can send is when we lead by example. So.
No, and I think, you know, doing a, you know, bipartisan, you know, with the hospitals and everybody, I think, Jared, trying to figure out how we could do a PSA to, you know, I think GSI would help, kind of what they did. They did one based on business leaders, and I think we need to do one based on electeds, to really get the message out there that I know we went to a restaurant last night, and myself, my husband, and my son, we all wore a mask into the, you know, from the car into the restaurant to our table, and we were literally the only ones with a mask on other than the employees at the restaurant. And when we left our, you know, took our mask off at our table, left our table, you know, put our mask back on, but I mean, nobody was wearing a mask to and from any of it. And so it is, I mean, I think we want people to feel safe to get out there. So I think it's important to try to get some kind of message out, you know, and even looking around the conference room, guys, I'm going to say, you know, we need to be having masks on in the conference rooms.
Or keeping your 6 feet.
Yeah, you know, yeah.
Yeah.
So I know, you know, I did notice the other day that you guys, you know, saw too many people were in the room, but, you know, I think if we're going to really not have masks on and keep our 6 feet, we've got to identify what's 6 feet. So, because I think, you know, we've got people watching, and I think it's going to be really important to, you know, for us that that's a shared space that we're projecting to the employees, you know, that we're wearing our masks. Talking to the hospitals that I talked to Peg Curry over the weekend, it's, you know, and she showed me some of the articles. It's important. So I want us to get to the next phase. So sooner than later. So I think that's the message is we need to be, you know, helping protect our community and that and showing we care.
Yeah, no, and I know there was a Jared, maybe you can weigh in. I know the JIC several months ago did the mask campaign with all the different elected officials, just sort of the headshots of all the, you know, so and so has their mask, do you have yours? I mean, is there something about, I mean, making a collage of all those pictures and blasting it out somewhere, or trying to make that go viral on social media? Just kind of have a collage of all the elected officials, and I mean, seeing if that does something. I mean,
yeah. And a statement, you know, with that saying, you know, we care about our community. We want to move forward. Wear your mask.
Yeah, I can do both. I think that's a good idea.
We can all share.
Yeah, I mean, because I think we've got all the pictures already. You know, as a part of that campaign, you have photographs of a lot of elected officials already. So, you know, that there may be a few others you may want to shoot an email to or something and say, hey, can you snap a headshot wearing your mask to be included in a, in a collage or something.
Yeah, I can get to work on that.
Okay. I think the sooner we do it, the better, especially as we were getting close to 4th of July, where people are going to be out and about. So thank you. That'd be great. I think the more we can do to get the word out, and that it's not a political issue, it's a community safety issue.
Okay, anything else?
Commissioner Kearns?
Yeah.
Did you, after yesterday afternoon's meeting, the regional project charter that we discussed, I did get a copy to Jerry we got the draft off. I don't know if both of you commissioners got a chance to see it. I think, Gina, did we add this to our consent as by leave?
Okay,
Did we? No, I'm.
we didn't, but I
Okay.
thought they could just make the motion.
Okay. Did you receive, did Jerry get the project charter to you?
If he did, it was not last night. There may have been something that's come in this morning. Let me take a peek. No, I do not believe we have received a clean draft of it yet. No.
I have it right here.
Okay.
And part of that was not just taking off the draft, but it was also making sure that our city partners were working off of the same draft we were, the same document, to make sure theirs didn't have additional red line changes that ours did not. Has anybody circled around to confirm that yet?
Probably not.
Okay, because that was the second part of the issue. We don't want to sign a document that's not the same document they're working off of.
Agreed.
So we're working off of it at the whatever meeting I'm having with them. I don't know. I think we've got one scheduled for Wednesday. So I think if we have a clean copy and we sign it, then they will have that copy, because the city has already approved this. Because it's not good. Again, this isn't like a real formal document. This is project charter.
Okay.
And we presented it to the Valley City Council, so all the city council saw the same document. I think with the red lines, I'd have to go back and look at the red lines were in it, or we talked about it that night. But again, it's only Ben Wick and the city administrator that are signing off on it.
Okay.
And so it should, if we approve this, if it needs to come back to us for some changes, but at least then it's sets into motion. But I think everybody else was pretty much okay with where we were at the meeting on it.
Okay. Can someone email this clean draft then, the non-red line with the draft removed? Can you email this to Mary and I, and we will queue this up for action this afternoon?
It's coming your way. I got it.
Thank you. All right. And Carrie, you're going to report back to us this afternoon with some more IT info. Got an email from Gina?
Yes.
Okay.
On the scanners. I just kind of briefly have gone through it. I'll head back to the office and talk to Pat on what was in the, one question though, I think from what I'm reviewing, a lot of the request was from the city side on some of their scanners. I don't know they want me to include those in this amount, but what I viewed thus far, there were only 16 scanners requested in this document from the county side.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, we'll queue that up for discussion then after our 2 o'clock. So thank you for all the work you're doing, Carrie. Thank you very much for everything you're doing.
No problem. Yes, Commissioner?
So not for you, Carrie, but this afternoon, do we have was there going to be a resolution that was going to be by leave? Have we seen a copy of that from HR?
From what?
From HR from yesterday? It was going to be a resolution that was on the by leave.
There was. I don't know if I've received that.
Commissioners, I'm working on that right now, and I have an email getting ready to be sent to you, but I'm gonna update it to include the regional charter on there.
Okay.
Thank you. And I think that's it till 2 o'clock for me.
Yeah. That's all I've got. Anybody else in the room around the horn? Anybody got anything else?
Not here, Commissioners.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all. Very efficient meeting. It is 11:10 and we are adjourned, and we'll see everybody back here at 2 o'clock.
There were 16 scanners